Welcome to this Build and Deploy Modern Web Apps with AWS Amplify session. My name is Mike Jerome. I'm the product manager for Amplify Hosting. Modern web applications need to deliver the lowest possible latency to end users globally and scale to meet peak workloads and spikes in traffic. In today's session, we're going to cover what Amplify is, think about the requirements of a modern web application, and cover the popular approaches to front-end delivery. Then I'll demo Amplify's hosting console, explain more about what's under the hood, and show you a couple of useful hosting features. To kick things off, let's talk about what AWS Amplify is. It's a complete solution that helps front-end developers quickly build web and native mobile apps. To break that down, the solution is made up of a set of services. At a high level, we have Studio, CLI, libraries, and hosting. Studio is a visual interface for creating both backends and cloud-connected front-end user interfaces, or UIs. Amplify CLI, which stands for Command Line Interface, allows you to configure and maintain your app's backend services. That would be things like authentication, storage, APIs. We have libraries. So we have libraries that allow your application to quickly access backend services. And then we also have UI, user interface components. And that's an open source design system with cloud connected components. And it makes it easy for your app to display information, both web and mobile front-end apps. Hosting is what we're looking at today. With Amplify Hosting, we run tests using continuous integration, and we offer zero downtime deployments with continuous deployments. Once your app is deployed, it automatically scales, serves content with low latency from CloudFront, which is a reliable CDN with hundreds of points of presence globally, and reduces the cost of hosting and operating web application infrastructures. So Amplify Hosting supports most modern frameworks, things like React, Angular, Vue, Next.js, Gatsby, Hugo, Jekyll, and more. And I think what's important to note here is that while these various Amplify services work great together, there's no requirement to use them all at the same time. They can be used a la carte. So for example, we have many customers that just use Amplify Hosting to host their front-end application, and then they use an existing back-end that's running elsewhere. Okay, let's take a moment to think about what we mean by a modern web application. When I think of a modern web application, I think of e-commerce, media streaming, social media, and online gaming. Modern apps can also replace applications that you traditionally install on a PC. Whatever the use case, nearly every modern web application will come with these requirements. So we have performance. Users expect millisecond latency, responsive front ends, fast loading times. They expect things to be available to them as quickly as possible. Scale. So many applications will have huge traffic spikes and peak usage, and they need to work and be reliable. Screens are a big challenge for web application. There's hundreds of different types of browsers of all different sizes. There's tablets, there's mobile devices. So anything you deliver needs to work and it needs to look good across a wide range of screens. Modern web apps need to be global. So wherever you are in the world, you expect the low latency, fast experience. Reliable. I think we've all come to understand places like Google are just always available to us all the time, Amazon.com, another great example. So we expect close to zero downtime. Agility. So thinking of the people that make and create the apps, they're keen to get speed to market, they're keen to make updates and roll things out. They want to remain agile and they want to work for their customers quickly. The developers of the apps, they want to use frameworks that help them be more productive. Things like React, Angular, Vue, Next.js. Operational overhead. I think everything you can do to avoid managing servers is a good thing. And that comes hand in hand with economics, where you should only be paying for your usage as you need it, especially as that traffic spikes up and down. User experience, customers have come to demand feature-rich applications. They expect them to be accessible and a great experience. And of course, security. We expect the highest standards for privacy and data security. So with those requirements in mind, I want to talk about 3 ways front ends can be delivered to your customers. The first is client-side rendering, or CSR. It's probably the most common method in use today. All of the app's assets sit on a CDN, content delivery network, and are delivered to customers when they first load the web app. We can think of it as the closest proxy to downloading an app from an app store. All of the app's logic, user interface, etc. are downloaded initially from the CDN, and then API calls are made from the browser. So it's a good experience because we can deliver those assets quickly from the CDN nearby the customer, and then those calls can be made from the customer's browser or web client. Something to be aware of, though, is that much of the work is being carried out by the customer's device. It's the customer's device that's responsible for rendering the HTML. And so that means the performance of the application is largely dependent on the customer's hardware. Not great if they've got an older mobile device. It also means apps can be slow to start, and the SEO or search engine optimization isn't always optimal. So second, we have a different approach, which is called static sites generation. So in this approach, the HTML is actually rendered on the server before a customer makes a request. So that makes it super fast. It's faster than any other option because it's prepared by the build process, pushed out to a CDN, and it's ready to go. And it's an excellent approach where the app is similar for most users and the content isn't changing in real time. So something like a news application, a blog, a marketing homepage, that's a really, really great reason to use static site generation. And then third, we have server-side rendering, or SSR. So like server-side generation, the HTML is rendered on the server rather than on the customer's device, but it's rendered when a customer makes a request, not before the customer makes a request. What that means is that some responses can be cached, which results in a good compromise of dynamic and fast content that's also SEO friendly. Next.js has popularized this approach. I should note that none of the approaches is best, and it's totally fine for an app to make use of all 3 approaches to deliver the best experience for various parts of the app. And that's why Amplify Hosting supports all 3 approaches. So let's use an example app to show how we can use Amplify Hosting. Here's the scenario. We've come up with the next big thing, a photo app. Okay, so here's a mock-up of our app. We can see responsiveness and user experience are top of mind. The app's got to work brilliantly on phones, tablets, and computers. The product manager and the engineering manager have pored over the spec and the design, and they've got a list of features that are must-haves for the first launch. It's got to be fast. It's going to be delivered using Amazon's CloudFront CDN. Secure. We expect things to be working over HTTPS and use SSL. Marketable. So we need search engine optimization. We also need a memorable domain name for the marketing. And we want to iterate quickly. So we want to be able to make changes and maybe see those in a preview environment, sign them off, make sure they work well before we push them straight out to our customers. And our developers have got some requirements too. In order to be able to iterate quickly and deliver some of the features, they want to use a modern framework. So for our app today, we're going to be using Next.js. The developers are also distributed around the world. They want to have test and audit around their code, and they're committing their code into a Git repository. Okay, I'm going to jump over now to the console and get ready for the first launch of our app using Amplify Hosting. So what we have here is the homepage. for AWS Amplify. I'm running this out of the Ireland region today, and we're going to jump right ahead and get started, and we're choosing to host a web app. So I click Get Started, and the source code for my app is in Git, and it's on GitHub specifically. So I'm going to select GitHub and continue. This is just authenticating my GitHub account with Amplify, and what we can see here is a list of my GitHub repositories. Today, we're going to be putting live Amplify Photo, and we're going to deploy what's called the main branch. We click Next, and we have been able to detect the right commands to build and push this app live. So I'm going to leave everything as default. I'm going to click Next, confirm my app settings here so we can see this has been picked up as a Next.js app. I'm going to be using SSG today from one of those 3 topics we've just covered earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and deploy this. Okay, so that's now starting a deployment process, and will be moved to the console in just a moment. And there we go. So we can see we're going to go through a provision, build, deploy, and verify process. We'll cover a little bit more about the console in just a moment. For now, I'm going to go right ahead and set up the domain name that we want to use. So we're going to be provided with an amplifyapp.com domain, but we know for SEO and marketing, we want a custom domain. We've managed to get hold of amplify.photo, which is just the perfect domain name for our application. So I will configure that, just a couple of clicks, and add that. And what you'll see here, and we'll cover this in a little bit more detail, you can see the domain is being picked up, and we're going to go ahead, create an Ssl certificate, configure that, put that online, as well as propagate the DNS out globally. So that is now in the process of building. And if I pop back here, we can see we're actually in the build phase. So it takes just a couple of minutes for the DNS to propagate around the world. So while we wait for that to happen, I'm just going to jump right back to the presentation and just cover some of the things that we've just done there in that very short demo. So reminding ourselves of the requirements: fast, we're going to be using a CDN; secure, we've set up SSL without having to do anything; marketable, we've entered the domain name that we want to use, and that's being set up for us; iterate quickly, I'll show you a preview later on in this presentation, and you saw we had a Next.js application that was connected using a Git repository. So imagine we had to set this up ourselves. We could begin with customers, which is where we should always begin. And we know that our front-end app and its assets, they could live in an S3 bucket. But we had a requirement. In fact, our first requirement was to make it fast. So we add a CDN to ensure fast global delivery to our customers. And we wanted to make it marketable and secure. So we have to manage the DNS, which is Amazon Route 53, and we have to manage Ssl certificates for our coveted domain name. We also need to start thinking about the user roles and the permissions to secure our infrastructure. So it's getting a little bit more complicated now than just the S3 bucket. Things get significantly more complicated for SSR apps that have APIs, lambdas, containers, etc. So the hosting environment now is made up of multiple parts. And again, we can also think about our developers who are pushing their code to the Git repository. They need to have a test and a build process so they can deliver those assets. But they'll also need a deployment mechanism. They want to have 0 downtime deployments. And they also want to be able to deploy the app multiple times in parallel for features such as preview apps. And so that involves setting up and managing many pipelines. There's a lot of infrastructure to manage for our bootstrapped photo app team. But Amplify Hosting abstracts it all away as a managed service. You don't have to think about any of these, and you can focus on what matters, which is your app. Okay, jump back over to the console. So since we've been gone, we can see that our app has been provisioned, it's been built, it's been deployed and verified. And if I jump back into my domain management, we can see the SSL has been created, it's been configured. It can take a short while for the domain to be verified globally, but I'm going to take a chance and see if it's already set up. So I'm going to hit amplify.photo. And yeah, instantly we can see the photo website has been put live. You can see this page was built just now, 2 minutes ago, in fact, and it looks fantastic. It looks exactly like the mock-up, which is great news. But we realize pretty quickly that as the number of photos grow, we've got no way of paginating or scrolling through a large list. So we realize feature number 2 that we need to put in here is some kind of pagination so we can page through all of the different pages. We want to check that that works and looks right in an environment that's a copy of the live environment, but without actually working in live environment, without actually working in the live environment. And that is exactly what previews can do. So back in the console, I'm going to go to the previews and enable that for my application. I'll install the GitHub app. So my main branch is what I'm most interested in, and I am going to enable previews. So with that enabled, that's going to allow me to spin up complete isolated copies of my application. So you think of the diagram we just showed on the screen, it's like having multiple copies of that. So I'm then going to go to GitHub, where we have our source code. You don't need to worry too much about the details of what I'm showing on the screen here. But I am going to go to our homepage, edit it, and just before our list of images, I'm going to add in some pagination. GitHub has a functionality called a pull request, and that's what I'm going to use. So this can be set up for review. So I'm going to create a new branch, propose this change with the pagination, and create something called a pull request. Now, what you will see here is very, very quickly, because I'm connected through GitHub and Amplify, the console has actually picked up that there's a change here and there's a preview. If I jump back to the Amplify console, go to my Amplify photo app, choose previews, you can see the list has grown from 0 to 1. So there's a preview URL here. It's currently in progress. So again, just like we did with the initial build, we're now creating an entire new environment. We will go through a provision, build, deploy, and verify stage. So that will take just a couple of minutes to set up. You can see provisioning has just started here while I'm talking. So while that goes through, I'll give you a quick tour of the console, and then we can see hopefully exactly what our change looked like and decide if we want to merge it into the main application. So to give you a whistle-stop tour, within any app within Amplify, you'll have a general tab. You can see things like the app name, the repository, the Git repository the code's connected to, the production branch URL. When the DNS is fully propagated, this will be changed to our custom domain name, the framework we're using, and a number of settings. So you can see we've got 2 branches happening in this app right now. We can link through to Amplify Studio, which is a topic for another day. We have domain management. We have just one domain running here right now. We're able to customize our build. So if you have a special process that you want to run or something's part of your CI/CD, you can edit the build process. It's also possible to trigger builds with incoming webhooks. This would be really useful if you had, say, for example, a headless CMS system and you wanted to trigger a build every time the content changed. It would automatically be updated with 0 downtime. The preview app, which we will look at in just a minute. You can receive notifications whenever a build succeeds or fails for an app. You can set custom environment variables. So you can have a difference between potentially connecting from production and preview or from a development branch if you would like. You can hold secrets in here, things like API keys that you do not want to commit to your source code. Access control. So this is a fun one. We obviously want our main branch to be publicly viewable, but this preview where we're testing out our pagination, we can put a password behind that. So I'll just create a password and enter that in, and that locks away. So when we try to access that preview now, we'll be prompted for a password. We have monitoring. There won't be a ton to show here because we've just set this up, but you can see we can get a good overview of the number of requests that are coming into our app, the data transfer, and any errors, and some critical performance information. You also have control over rewrites and redirects, which again is very important for search engine optimization, and an ability to control the headers as well from the console. So what I'm going to do now is take a look at the preview. This is still in progress. I'll just refresh my screen. Great, success. So we've come up with a custom URL here, which is pull request 19. Let's go and open that in a new tab. And we don't see it straight away because we password protected it. So I'm going to enter the same password. And there we go. So we still have our live environment that doesn't have the pagination. And now we have this preview environment, and you can see we've added pagination across the top there. So we can run through some tests. And as it happens, the designers aren't happy with this. They don't like the fact that there's this extra vertical line across the top. And so we're not going to go ahead with this change. So back in GitHub, we can choose to close that pull request rather than merge it into the main application. And we will also go ahead and just delete the branch that was associated with that pull request. Now, if I try to load this preview page again now, it's gone blank. And that's because Amplify is now tearing that preview down. So you can imagine an environment where you have tens or hundreds of previews and branches all running at the same time, and they can be torn up and torn down. They do not affect your production environment. It's a great place to test things out. And if I refresh this, we should see that preview environment has disappeared. That's great. So we've covered there a fantastic demo of how to set up a preview, decide whether you want to go ahead with it or not, and then cancel it off. Okay. So this is a wrap up. So we've gone through there and we've covered the difference between, we've covered the Amplify suite, and we've talked about Amplify hosting. We've talked about modern web app requirements and front-end delivery patterns. And then we've deployed a photo app. So we deployed it live in a matter of minutes using Amplify hosting with a custom domain name. The SSL was configured. We had a tour of the dashboard and we saw Git-driven previews. So that concludes today's presentation. If you've got any questions, I would be very happy to answer them. Thank you.